Hi, everyone. My name is Shireen Khosropur. I'm a psychology professor at Austin Community College. I'm also director of the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies. And it's in my role as the center director that I'm here to welcome you to this session, part of our Peace in Relationship series. I'm going to ask my colleague Leila to put a link to all of our center events in the chat. Those of you who are viewing this video recording, if you go to austincc.edu/peace, you can find your way to all of our events, and please join us. I'm going to keep my own introduction super short, so we have the most available time for our amazing and returning guest lecturer, my former colleague and friend, Dr. Duana Welch. I won't go into introductions for her. I think it's more fun for you to hear directly from our presenters. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Duana.
Thank you, Dr. Khosropur, for, you and Leila for inviting me. I've enjoyed doing a series of webinars for ACC now, and I taught at ACC as a psychology adjunct for the better part of 10 years. I left almost, gosh, we're coming up on 8 years ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long, that I moved out of state, and I now live in the Pacific Northwest. And there's a lot of great hiking, but I do miss my students and my colleagues very, very much. So for about 25 years, I've been using social science along with chemistry, biology, and other sciences to help people find and keep their life partner. And one of the big things that I have done for a number of years is help people navigate digital dating. So I was really excited when I was asked to do this topic. I will tell you, I'm having the problem of, I want to say everything, and I'm not going to have time to say everything. So I want to tell you how this is structured. And then you can just jump in with questions anytime you want. You can put them in the chat. If I don't see your question, maybe one of our delightful hosts will let me know that there's a question for me to address. So with that said, this is structured in a ready, set, go format. Here's how you get ready to date digitally. Here's how you set up in terms of the actual website, and then here's what you do once you're there. And so if you have questions along the way, again, I've literally written entire books about this. This is the one that I recommend that you get, which is the latest. The other one is 8 years old now. This one's new. Love Factually 10 Proven Steps for My Wish I Do, and it's the revised and updated edition, complete with many, 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 many references and explanations at the back. It's not written like a science book. It's just written conversationally, but you can see the science in the back. Okay, so with that said, Leila, would you mind going to the next screen? Okay, who is dating digitally? Well, it used to be that people felt like they had a big L tattooed on their forehead if they were online and looking for love. They felt like it meant that they were not desirable enough to find somebody in real life. But now most people date digitally. In fact, a third of the people who married, not just met someone, who married between 2005 and 2012 met their spouse online. That was a representative survey. In other words, it wasn't just a selection bias in there. It was statistically representative. So we know that, and most of these people were very happy, actually, which also kind of surprised me. And one of the early ideas I want to introduce is, you've probably been told dating is a numbers game, but really it's not. It's really about what you know more than how many people you meet. I'm just going to start with a personal example. I was divorced a few years ago, and at the age of 52, after I had gotten through my divorce and recovered from that, I decided, I'm going to look again. Now, I happen to know the odds of a 52-year-old woman finding someone to get married to, if she wants to, is 15 out of 100. Not high odds, but I knew that I know the things that people need to know, and I know how to act on them in order to put myself in that 15%. Indeed, I did it. We're celebrating our third Valentine's Day today. We got married October 1st. And thank you. And so I did all the things that I'm teaching you how to do. And dating is not a numbers game. I realized that as I got to know the science better and better. So just personal example, because I have my own permission to share those details. I went online on December 31st of 2020. I did that partly because in a pandemic, you have a really good excuse to stay away from somebody physically until you actually know them, which is very helpful to developing a lasting relationship, which is what I wanted. And so again, I might be talking to people who that's not what they want, in which case this could just be an interesting exercise, but that's what I wanted. And that's the perspective from which I talk to my clients. So I only talked to 12 people on the phone. And I didn't just text them. I spoke on the phone for a number of reasons we might get to later. I only met 4 in person for a first meeting. I only met 1 a second time, and we're married. That's not the story that I hear about so often, which is I've met hundreds of people online. Why am I not finding the person? You need strategy. There are ways to do this, and that's why I'm here today. So I will tell you, dating digitally is a big, important way to go now. It's rivaling meeting through friends and family, which is the long time tested, time honored way of meeting people all over the world, including in the US until recently. This is now probably, I haven't found data to show this for absolute certain. It looks like it is either the #1 way that people meet now, or it's very, very close to it. Okay, so most people online are not there to hit it and quit it. Most people, at least half of the people in 2021 were online to actually find their mate. Half of the men, 59% of the women. Okay, so there are more women than men who are looking for a permanent partnership, but it's not a giant difference like some people might think. And the typical results are happiness. So John Cacioppo, who allowed me to interview him for an article I wrote for Psychology Today, and then I used it as part of my book. He told me that, well, actually, I got hold of the data set he had collected for eHarmony, and I kind of didn't believe that that could be accurate because eHarmony paid for the study. So, all facts come with a point of view, and I didn't really trust it. So I asked for the data set. I asked for all the questions. I asked for everything. And in my opinion, it was legit. So I wanted to interview the lead scientist, who's a very famous scientist named John Cacioppo. And Dr. Cacioppo answered my question: why would people who met online be happier than other people? And he said, well, first of course, there are a lot of things that contribute to relational happiness. How you meet is only one of them. But he did think there were reasons why, statistically at least, it was significant. If people met online, they were happier than meeting other ways. One of them is that behind the screen, people tend to be more rather than less honest. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. I'm not saying that there aren't liars out there. I'm not saying there aren't people who will play with you out there. I am saying, however, that a lot of people reveal their character quite honestly. There are studies that show that how people present themselves on social media seems to be pretty representative of their basic personality. Also, there are just fewer barriers when you're dating digitally. Most of the time, people can assume, most of the time, it does depend where you are, they can assume accurately that you're not just there looking around. You're there looking for a partner. You're there because you're single and looking. Now, we will come up against some big exceptions later in this, but for the most part, especially when he was doing his research, which was pre-Tinder, pre-Bumble, pre-swiping apps, that was especially true. The other thing is people tend to engage in something you may have already heard of called assortative mating, which means there's this big funnel and people tend to narrow that funnel rapidly based on physical attractiveness, but also similarity of values, similarities of activities, and those things turn out to be really, really important. The more similar you are with your partner, the more likely you are to start dating, continue dating, get engaged, get married, say that you're in love, and for your relationship to last and to last happily, which obviously is it's a big thing because you don't want your relationship to last miserably. So it's a good idea. So let's go on to the next slide. Thanks, Layla. So when you are deciding where you're going to put yourself out there, which app, which site or sites that you're going to use, and it's totally legit for you to use several at a time. I want you to be guided by your goals. What type of relationship do you want? No, the people that I work with want a pretty standard relationship, whether they are gay or straight or whatever their gender or gender orientation or sexual orientation. What the people that I work with want is to find the love of their life and to keep that person in their life. But you may have a different goal, and that's really going to shape where you go. Another thing is, what gender of person are you looking for? What geographical location are you located in, and where do you think they need to be located? What age group are you looking for? That's all going to shape your goals because there are tools to help you determine where to look. There's a site called Statista, and it's kind of expensive to get a membership. They do have some free data there, but if you have the money and the inclination, you can go and you can look at the most popular dating sites or apps, and you can look at it by almost any dimension that you want and see who is where. But you can also use Google. So one of the things you can do is just go to Google, and when you do your search, go to tools and select only for the past year, and then type in most popular dating, and then you either write site or app, and then you say by, and then you put one of these dimensions: age, state, near me, free, whatever it is that you're looking for. And you can see, where is the overlap? What am I most comfortable with? And that kind of thing. Instead of me just saying, use this one, because there's not a this one. It depends who you are, which one that you need to be using. This is one of the things I help clients figure out. Okay, next slide, please. All right. In choosing your apps and your sites, you're going to want to know something about whether you need paid or free, and that is going to depend on your goal. Barry Cooley found in a study of people on Tinder in 2016 that 30% of the men on Tinder were actually already married, whether or not they said so. And there was a big gender difference. That wasn't so true of the women on the app. The men on the app could find plenty of women who said they were single and actually were. The women were having a little bit harder time with that. In fact, studies have found that some men go on Tinder and they swipe right on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women, regardless of physical appeal, in the hopes of getting any one of them to sleep with them. So just be forewarned, if you're looking for something serious, I can't recommend Tinder based on the data. 2021, the Tinder stat showed that that hadn't changed much. 30% were married, another 12% were partnered, for a grand total of 42% of people were already in a relationship, most of whom did not admit that except in the research. So again, if you're poly, you don't mind that, you would actually rather have somebody married, great. But if, like most of my clients, you want the love of your life, you want them to be available for you and only you, maybe not the right pool for you to fish in when it comes to dating. And again, there was a gender difference there, although not so large this time, which I found interesting. In the 2012 Harris study, that was done pre-app. They looked at eHarmony and Match and some of the other big online dating sites, but the online dating sites they looked at really weren't intended for hookups. So I think that's part of the reason why they found that people who met digitally were slightly happier than people who met any other way, because research is very clear that the people who are happiest are the happily partnered, especially the happily married. It does make a difference. I know that's politically incorrect, I'm not here to be PC. I'm here to say what the data say. The data say married people are happier if they're happy. If they're miserable, they're the most miserable. So you want to do it right, which is what I'm all about. But yeah, they found that eHarmony and Match were good sites. What's really interesting to me about eHarmony is they had the happiest outcomes. They even broke it down by, okay, where specifically online did people meet? People were happiest who'd met on eHarmony, but it was bimodal. People were also the most miserable who'd met on eHarmony. They were in one category or the other, and I don't know why. But I asked Dr. Casiopo about that, and he said, good catch, don't know why. Okay, so going back to that slide, Layla. Thank you. Nope, the one before, I think. There we go. Nope, the next one. Layla, I'm so happy this is happening to you because it happens to me all the time when I do it. And I always hate it. So thank you for taking that off me. In 2019, Bumble's users, you would think, it's women's empowerment. It's women make the first move used to be their tagline. It's a free app. You would think that it would mostly be women on there because it's about women's empowerment, yet not so much. 66% of the people on Bumble in 2019 were male, looking for females. Why? Well, I don't know for sure. I will tell you what my male clients have said, which jives with my not personal experience. I never was on Bumble, largely for the reasons that I'm talking about right now. My male clients have told me that Bumble is even better than Tinder if you want to hook up, because now you don't even have to wonder if she's into you. And one of my male clients said, yeah, you just go to the city of your choice because it's location based. You see all the women who swiped right on you. You get in touch with a few of them, see who can meet that evening, and you're pretty sure you're going to have sex. So again, not so empowering for women who are looking for a steady long-term relationship, because the guys who tend to want sex and expect sex on the first date tend not to be the guys who actually want a long-term relationship. It's not the same people. Men have both a short-term and a long-term mating mode. Women do too. When people are in short-term mode, they behave differently than when they're in long-term mating mode. And they tend to have different reasons for long and short-term mating mode. Men's rationale for a short-term mating mode tends to be, let's have some fun, or an evolutionary reason, let's cast some genes forward. And women's tends to be, let's have some fun, but now I'm kind of hooked on you, and now I kind of want a relationship with you. Again, speaking in generalities, what the data say. Match.com. When Match launched, approximately when the Earth's crust was cooling, I don't even know what year it was. When Match launched, it was mostly guys. And the reason it was mostly guys was that people who used tech at that time were mostly male. It's still mostly guys though. And I have a hypothesis about why it's mostly guys. Mostly guys because we know for sure men love having endless visual variety when it comes to looking at prospective partners. Gay men love it, straight men love it. Match offers it. You can look through thousands of profile pictures if you want to. That's not usually as appealing to women, no matter what a woman's sexual orientation, but it is usually appealing to men. If you are a woman and you are looking for a man, or if you're a man who's looking for a man, Match might be one of the best stocked places around if you want an actual relationship, because also people on Match tend to be more oriented toward having a genuine relationship. Full disclosure, I met my husband here, and I very specifically chose this pond to fish in. If somebody out there says, well, she keeps talking about men and women, and I'm gender fluid, or I am transgender, there is at least one study that shows that, there's not a ton of studies yet, but there's at least one that shows that whatever gender you identify with, quite probably your brain is set up to be more like that gender than like the gender that people thought you were when you were born. So brain studies. So if you feel like you are oriented toward having a male psychology, then I might or might not be talking about you. But you will know as you think about this, you'll know who you are. I trust you to know that. Okay, and if you're an exception, maybe you're a woman who just wants to hit it and quit it. Maybe you're a guy who has never wanted to have casual sex. Those people exist. And so, take what I'm saying and apply it to your life as it makes sense or doesn't make sense. Research is very good at telling us what most of the people do and think most of the time, not really good at saying what you specifically are going to do and think at any given time. Okay, so photo versus content heavy. Another way you pick your app or site is, does it allow you mostly just to post photos or mostly to post content? If you are looking for a hookup, go with something photo heavy, especially a site that is expressly for the purpose of hooking up. Because how do people make decisions about hookups? Not based on similarity. They make the decision based on what you look like. So go with that. If, on the other hand, you want a long-term relationship, I would recommend going with something that's content heavy. And by content heavy, I mean, how much can you write about who you are looking for? Look, one of my tips and tricks, and it will immediately make you a standout on any content heavy app, is everyone writes about themselves in their profile. Don't do that. Stand out from the crowd. Write about them. In writing about them, you are writing about you, because it turns out when people write a profile about what they're looking for, they are describing themselves almost always. So write your profile about them. It will also, by default, probably be about you. And make it lighthearted, make it funny if you want somebody funny, which most people do, especially women do. And don't say, I want somebody funny, be funny, and the funny people will come your way. And the problem, age use varies by site. Younger people are much more likely to be on a photo heavy format, including young people who really want a long-term relationship or a marriage. And I think that's because of when people come of age. I came of age, actually even kind of after my time, because I'm 54 now, but I came of age during Match and kind of eHarmony kind of stuff. And that's very content heavy. People my age are still mostly using content heavy platforms if they're really looking for a relationship. Very young people, late teens, 20s, 30s, but especially 20s and late teens, they're more using the photo heavy. So that's one reason I told you, Google in your area, what are people using? Is it content heavy or photo heavy? If you feel like, you know what, I get you, I agree with you, content would be better for my purposes, but I go on there and it's me and all the 50-year-olds, and that's not my crowd. I hear what you're saying. You don't have to be there. What I would advise you to do is create a content heavy profile. And when someone matches with you on these photo generated apps, what I would advise you to do is then send that profile to them back channel, send them a note and say, hey, you're really cute. Looks like we might have a couple things in common, but it's hard to tell here. I've written an ad about the person I'm looking for. Would you be willing to see that? Now, here's what's going to happen at that moment. People who don't want a real relationship, or they want you to deliver pizza and sex and then leave, are going to vanish because they don't want your ad. No, just deliver the pizza and the sex. The people who actually want a relationship are going to be like, nice. And again, that is more than half of people. So, should you go for one site at a time or more? Here's the deal. In my experience coaching for 25 years now, the sites really only heavily promote you for like a couple weeks. And that's it. Then it's crickets, and then they want you to buy. to get featured that day, or, they want to upsell you on a lot of stuff. You'll also notice none of them want you to have a 1-month membership. They all want you to have, I think it's hilarious, some of them want you to have a lifetime membership. That to me is the definition of pessimism. A lifetime membership to a dating site, if you want a real relationship. So I would advise that you're always the new kid. What I did when I was going through this, and I advise my clients to do so as well, is do your research, figure out, okay, what's my best stock pond, second, third, and so on, and be on each site for 1 month and then rotate back through. And on your ad, say this offer good until, and put a date that's 30 days away from when you posted. You increase scarcity mentality, which you should know from social psych is a good thing. It also increases your status online, which is a good thing. And it also kind of, gets people to understand, I'm not going to be here forever. So don't just like surf by and think I'm just going to always be here. I'm not. So, I might be here in another 4 months if things don't work out, but don't say that part. Okay. So, and I want to tell you, if you do this just right, you might not be on there very long at all. Again, keep in mind what I said about women over the age of 50. Keep in mind that men tend to love long hair, and that I had cut all mine off. And yes, I cut it myself. So, it was pandemic. I was doing all that. I'm still doing that. Because I decided, what, I think I just don't want to deal with long hair anymore. So I decided I'm going to go online with somebody who thinks, and find somebody who thinks that's cool, so that I never have to grow long hair again. And it worked. So here's the deal, because nobody minds if you then grow your hair long. They only mind the other direction. So 1-month memberships cost more than longer memberships, but that's because they're more effective. If you do everything that I teach you to do in a targeted way, you are very likely to meet somebody quite quickly who could be right for you. Because you're not waiting to ask the hard questions. You're asking them before you've even met. Your profile is actually asking them before you don't even know if somebody's going to swipe on you, because your filter is operating for you right then, right away. And so I met Carrie, my husband, on the 7th day. And that's never happened to me before. I was single in the era of the internet interwebs before, and I didn't know all the stuff that I know now, and I didn't know how to use the funnel most efficiently. If you get really efficient at this, you don't have to be on a lot of places for very long. Okay, so again, how long a membership? Look, I advise 1 month, because what do the sites want to do? They want to upsell you on another month. They're going to have to work harder than their algorithm wants to work. Many of them charge the same for 3 months. 3 months that they charge for 1 month. Think about why that is. It's because it's to your advantage to do 1 month. That's why that is. Now, notice that I keep going paid or free, paid or free. I'm going to give you the answer right now. If you want to find a life partner, go where people pay. Think about who's on the free sites. People who want to hook up. They don't want to invest anything. People who want to find their spouse, they are motivated to pay. Go someplace paid if at all possible. Can you find great people anywhere? Absolutely. And I also want to emphasize, you will find completely inappropriate people everywhere. No matter, one of the big complaints I get from my clients is, well, I went there and I met people who were wrong for me. Well, yeah, if I could say, you're going to find your partner on Tuesday at this site, man, would I be filthy rich or what? That'd be amazing. Nobody can do that. Nobody can do that without a crystal ball. Look at me. I have a crystal ball. I still can't do it. Okay. So next page. Okay. So we got ready. We're getting set. What are your standards? First of all, this is a commandment of dating. Thou shalt swipe right on thy match. What this means is, many people now, because apps have gone to swiping and mostly a photo format, many people are treating potential matches as, there'll always be someone else. Well, there will always be someone else, but if what you're seeing is someone who's about your same level of physical attractiveness, and to the extent you can tell you want the same things, you're going to swipe right on them in my universe. You're not going to be thinking there's probably someone who's better looking. You're to swipe right on that person. And this brings us to what I call the 10% problem. Since the advent of swiping apps, apparently most people are swiping right on someone who's about 10% better looking than them, which is not great. Because what happens? I swipe on somebody 10% better looking than I am, and then they swipe on somebody 10% better looking than they are. And then the person at the top's like, life is good. But the rest of us, what's happening to us? We're getting ignored, right? People tend to, again, the matching phenomenon, assorted mating, people tend to not only wind up with somebody about as good looking as they are, but also someone who shares the same values, and they're happier with that person. So when you see someone who's a match, swipe right on that person. Don't keep hoping, oh, there's someone better out there. By the way, I'm not saying settle on the first reasonable match you find. I don't want anybody to date just one person until they've done the process of making sure that that one person looks like a spot on match that you could build a life with. I'm not talking about, I just saw you, you seem to match. I'm getting off all the dating apps till I figure it out. That is a good way to be 80 and still looking. And a lot of people do that, by the way. A lot of people get involved instantly with the person they just met. I didn't do that with Carrie. I met him quickly. I didn't start dating him exclusively quickly. Just so you know, I don't recommend exclusive dating right out the gate. I recommend waiting on the physical side so that you can find out if this person's really a match, and so you can keep your heart open to meeting other people, because especially if you are looking for a man, men have biological qualities that in order to, I'm giving you evolutionary science in a nutshell here, but in order to protect them from raising some other guy's kids, this is even if the guy's gay, and it's even if the guy's 80 years old, or he's had a vasectomy, or he never wants children, it doesn't matter. Evolution doesn't have an off switch. It doesn't care who you are. Men have biological mechanisms that cause them to emotionally detach from people that they have sex with right away. There's a gay matchmaker who makes all the guys that she works with read my books before she will let them sign a contract with her because of this. So I would recommend that you hold off on sex until you know the person has what you're looking for that's non-sexual. And then you get exclusive and you explore that side. But and obviously it's going to be understood. If we can't work the sex thing out, we're not staying together. That's a deal breaker. I'm not recommending that people wait till marriage either, because of major reason that people divorce is sexual incompatibility. So I'm not recommending that either. I'm not recommending anything that I'm saying for a politically conservative, a socially conservative reason. I am recommending it based on science. So sometimes there's a mismatch that's still a match. All over the world, people trade youth and beauty for provision and protection all over the world. So older women trade their ability to provide and protect to much younger men and much younger women who have youth and beauty. Older men, it's the usual is it's an older man and a younger woman, but older men with younger men, older men with younger women. Most of the time people match. They match on youth, beauty, for provision, protection. They're a good match. But when there's a mismatch, this is the direction. One person has the youth and beauty to a greater extent. The other person has the resources and the willingness to devote those resources to a greater extent. And that's still a match. Where people get in trouble is when they want a mismatch, like men that write to me and they want a very young, beautiful partner, but this guy is unemployed or all his money is still going to an ex or something like that. He's not going to get a much younger, more beautiful partner because that younger, beautiful partner, male or female, can find somebody else. Or when I work with women who are my age and older, which I do very often, and they want somebody who is extremely financially well off. Look, if you're extremely financially well off, that could happen, but men who are extremely financially well off, research shows again and again and again, this is very well established. Their preference for youth and beauty is one that they act on because they can. So I've told many women, I've worked with a lot of women who are too rich to have a partner. They want somebody, women all over the world, lesbian, straight, they want a partner who's wealthier than they themselves. Look, if you're in a lesbian relationship, you can't both be wealthier. So that's a problem right off the bat. But, you know, the thing is, if you're already quite wealthy and you want somebody who's wealthier than you are, and you want a guy, he's going to get youth and beauty. That's how this works. So just playing the odds there. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, your photos. In the first edition of my most popular book, I just said, take some good photos and put them out there. I didn't say what good photos were. I now say what good photos are, because it turns out that even really, really smart people don't always see themselves the way other people see them. So I'm going to tell you based on science, and here I'm going to extrapolate in some cases based on long experience with clients. What do you need to do? First of all, I want you to have 7 photos. People don't need more than that. 7 is a good enough set to see, do they really look like that? What do they look like from another angle? 7 is the number that many swiping apps want you to have. So let's go with 7. Who's in them? You. You are in them and nobody else. Nobody else is in them. Why? Here's a bad idea that I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of women who put their children in the photos with them. Now, this is a bad idea at every point in the lifespan. Who wants pictures of you with your kids? Predators like that a lot. You don't want that. Granted, if you're lesbian, okay, maybe, but there's still the whole butch femme thing, which I've gotten in trouble for saying in the past. I'm saying in research, it's a thing. There are people who identify themselves that way, and butch women identify themselves with a masculine mating psychology by and large, where they're more into the hookup mentality than most straight women and the women who identify as femme, who want the long-term relationship. So who wants to put kids in their photos? Usually straight women and femme women. Your target audience, you don't want that. Another reason is, in that case, your target audience actually just wants to focus on you. They don't want instant family. And yet another reason, sometimes I have women who say, yeah, but my kids are grown. Mine too. He still wasn't in any of my pictures. Here's what happens when you put, what's really interesting is the number of women who put their daughters in the picture on their daughter's wedding day. People tend to look at their best on their wedding day. You have now put someone next to you who is younger and therefore, from a mating standpoint, usually considered more beautiful. And you are creating a contrast effect that's not in your favor. So you're the one in the picture, nobody else. The one exception, if you're a guy and you are trying to appeal to women, maybe have your kids in your picture, because it shows that you're more oriented toward staying around, providing and protecting. Those are universally in every country, every culture, hunter-gatherer to right here, right now. Those are winners. So you could do that, but I wouldn't advise anybody else to do it. How recent? Please make your pictures no longer ago than 6 months. So you can say, these are recent, or these were from last month, so that people know you're not catfishing them. Okay, so I want you to have at least 2 headshots, 2 to 3 of these should be headshots. And I want you to look straight into the lens and smile like this. I'm going to do a really cheesy smile. My eyes are crinkling. You want that because only this half of your face is smiling. Why do I want that? Because universally, making direct eye contact and smiling with an eye crinkling smile. And I've had a lot of people argue, but I don't like my crow's. Doesn't matter. Those crow's feet are doing you a favor. The favor they are doing you is saying, I like you. People like likers. That's a very well-established phenomenon. And men especially tend to perceive that someone of their desired demographic who is smiling at them, looking straight in their eyes and crinkling their eyes, is interested in them. They over-perceive sexual interest based on that. So exploit that. Make yourself look approachable. Okay, and headshots, I want you to start out with headshot because if you had to guess, if someone could only see my head or my body, who would pick seeing only my face and who would pick seeing only my body? I bet you have a pretty good idea of who that is. And research has actually provided that dilemma and asked people ahead of time, what are you looking for? What headspace are you in right now? And specifically, men who are into hitting it and quitting it, they will not even look at your head, not even look at your face if the choice is face or body. They're looking for fertility expressed through waist to hip ratio, although they don't say, I'm looking for fertility expressed in waist to hip ratio. They're not consciously aware of that, but that's what's happening. And so you want to make sure that you have headshots and that they're smiling. Okay, how many full body shots? All the rest of them. So if you've got 2 head, I really like 3 headshots and 4 full body shots. Let's skip down to clothes for a moment, however. Men who go shirtless on any dating site or app are mostly looking for a hookup. Fact. Most of them are looking for a hookup. Men, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, excuse me, if you're looking for something long-term and you don't have a shirt on in any of your pictures, women who are the most likely and the most serious to want a long-term relationship and who you would probably think are the best matches are going to move right along. If you just want hookups, great, go with that. Women. So I used to work when I was working at ACC, I also worked at my alma mater, which is Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas. And I was very happy. They invited me to be a guest professor there for a little while. And what I found was that I had a colleague there named Carrie Getz, who was working with Dr. David Buss, the world's most famous evolutionary psychologist when it comes to human mating behavior. He is the author of the textbook Evolutionary Psychology, which is used everywhere in the world that's taught now. He's got data for more than 37 different countries and cultures. She was one of his students, and she had just done research. She had been the first author on research showing that men who are looking to sexually exploit women, not just like one-nighter, but like rape them, get them drunk, and then rape them, all kinds of, stuff like that. They looked for women who were wearing very tight clothes and very few clothes. And Dr. Getz got death threats for publishing that research because people thought she was saying that women deserved it. She never said that, and she did not mean that. I want to tell you what I tell my clients and anybody who'll listen. I should be able to leave the front door to my house open and nobody should come and steal my stuff. They are doing something they're not supposed to do if they do that. They're afoul of the law and they're afoul of morality for taking my stuff. I should be able to go to a campsite and leave my exceptionally nice cooler out in full public view and nobody should take it. However, it turns out people do walk into houses and take things, and it turns out people will take my extremely nice cooler, so I have to put a ratty blanket over it if I go camping. I'm not saying put a ratty blanket on, but I am saying I live in such a way that my house doesn't appeal to people who would violate my trust. And I would advise that online you wear an amount of clothing and a type of clothing that does not attract people who want to violate you and your trust. So if you're looking for a male partner specifically, I would advise that you wear clothes that are just tight enough to show your shape, but not skin tight, that you're wearing enough clothes to cover the vast majority of you. And but also at the same time that you not wear patterns, because that breaks up what your shape is. And men, gay or straight, are very attracted to shapes that connote vitality and health. And so they tend to prefer a solid uniform color. So I would advise that. Pick a color that you look good in. And I'm sure you know what those are. And if you don't, ask your friends, they'll tell you. Okay, filters, glam, cropping. Don't be the person who cropped your ex out of the photo. Don't do it. Don't be the person who used filters. Will it get you more responses? Maybe, maybe not. But here's the thing. When you meet people in real life, the idea behind filters is, oh, I'll get more traction. And then when somebody meets me, they'll see the real me and they'll just bypass the fact that I don't really look like my photos. They won't. They will feel misled. And they very often will behave in a very rejecting, rude manner when you meet them. Or they'll think, all right, I'll have sex with you, but then I'm never speaking with you again. They'll switch from, I was gonna actually look at this as a real thing, but now you just got moved from the Mr. or Ms. Right category to the Mr. or Ms. Right Now category. And I'm not telling you that, I'm just going with that. So if you want to be treated well, I would advise that you have a photo of yourself that's not glamorous. It's you at your everyday best. Especially if you going down to activities, pets, travel, especially if your activities, your pets, your travel, if that's what you're doing at the time. My photos, I was hiking because that's what I do. And also it was COVID. So my cousin took a picture from like 20 feet away because we didn't know you could actually be outdoors pretty much with impunity. So, I'm like this big, we had to zoom in afterward, and then I had to take selfies, which are not flattering for almost anybody. And definitely not for me, for my headshots. But I followed these directions. And my goal was when somebody showed up to meet me, they either thought, you look exactly like your pictures, or you look a little bit better than your pictures. Because if you make the grade online and you look that good or better, people are going to be really happy about that. They're going to like you even more. So whatever it is you think that you want to do with misleading people, don't do that thing. If you don't want to accept someone who's your physical match, then work on changing the things you can about your physicality to make a match. But don't mislead people. It won't work very well at all. People who do that tend to get ignored or dumped or cheated on or ignored. And then maybe they get somebody and then they get dumped and then they get cheated on and dumped. It's not good. Okay, and that's research. That's not just my opinion. Okay, background and lighting. I'm amazed that people will have a video chat or have photos on their apps or their dating sites where the background is cluttered. You want that background to be appealing. The human brain is a mostly non-conscious phenomenon. The entire right side of the brain is mostly devoted to non-conscious processing that makes us feel good or bad about something. It's our gut reaction to things. Our gut reaction actually happens in the gut. There are nerves that go from the gut up to the brain, but it's also in the brain, largely on the right, in the right hemisphere. And you want somebody to see that whole ambiance and think, oh, I feel good when I look at this person. So no clutter in the background. I've seen pictures where people had a pile of unfolded laundry right behind their head. And they said, well, it's a really good picture of me. It might be. And now with newer phones, you can actually have just the picture of you with no setting around it. Maybe that's what you need to do in that case. But don't have clutter in your background. And also on the video call, oh my gosh, I hear from my clients who say, we had a video call and this person it looked like an episode of Hoarders in the back of no, you can't do that. You got to clean it up. These people don't know you yet. Now, you're going to need to talk to them about cleanliness and all that. But I'm just saying, people tend to put their best foot forward. And if the best foot that you put forward is, I'm totally fine with this, I can't even see what I look like to you, people take that as a bad sign. Okay. Activities, pets, travel, we've covered, and we've already covered kids. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, now your profile. I can't overemphasize this. Make your list. I've got a whole other webinar that's about this topic. Layla has dropped into the chat all the events and the peace and relationships events. And I would encourage you, I think you can search just by mine if I'm not mistaken. And there's one that's just about how to identify what you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't know what you want, if it's not so crystal clear that you can write down not only what it is, but how you will know if your person has this, i.e., it's not just enough to say they're kind. You need to know what kindness means to you and how you would assess this. You need all that. If you don't have it, it's like getting in a vehicle to take a wonderful vacation with no idea where you're going. You might wind up someplace great, but you're probably going to wind up at a lot of not so great places first. So, and you might only have a week to take your vacation, and you don't want to spend most of that time figuring out what the good place would have been. You want to get to the good place right away. Your list is the shortest distance between you and that place. Okay, so crafting a compelling profile is not possible without that list. It is an absolute prerequisite. The reason I'm saying this is I hear from a lot of people all over the world who just decided, I kind of know what my list is, and then they just went with that. It doesn't work. So crafting a compelling profile, start with, I usually actually take the list, and I write profiles for a lot of people. So, and I wrote mine, of course. I take people's list and I make a profile that is intended to cleverly craft that list so it describes the other person. In my case, I wrote a casting call for an upcoming rom-com starring brackets, your name here. And then I went on to say, here, the leading lady is this actress who I look nothing like. And people could see what I look like. My pictures were right there, but I was being funny. And that she's in this upcoming rom-com and she really needs a male lead because otherwise it's not very romantic. And here are the qualities of the successful I can't remember the name right now, auditioner for this role. Okay. So I usually write the content first. I look at the list. I think, okay, what are some serious things and what are some fun things that I want to express in this ad? And I'm going to express even the serious things. I'm not going to be real heavy about it, but I'm going to make sure it gets said. And there'll be enough fun things. I'll put, a fun thing or two at the top, and I'll put something more serious, the sandwich technique. And then I'll put something that's more fun, and then I'll put something that's more serious, and then something that's more fun. And that doing it that way will really speak to your person, and it will really get rid of people who aren't. For example, one of the things that I said on mine was, and I wrote it in the third person because I wrote it like I was the casting director, and here's the female lead, and now we need a male lead. And so I said, he has a secure attachment style. That was something serious. Or he has, what else did I say? He has all the most important stuff: generosity with responsibility. He plans dates that he can easily afford. Because for evolutionary psych reasons, I didn't offer to foot the bill or half the bill on the first few meetings. That wasn't a thing I was doing, not because I'm not a feminist, I am, but because I'm an empiricist, and men like women better when they work to have them, and the players don't usually want to invest. So I knew that I was, two birds, one stone doing it that way. But I also said he enjoys calling and asking a girl on a date so that she can look forward to the good time that they can both look forward to the good time that they will have, and she appreciates it and him. I'm making it really clear. Look, if you want me to court you, it's never happening, but I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying it in a fun, upbeat, lighthearted way. And the men who answered were like, that sounds fun to me. I did get a couple, you think you're awfully special, don't you? And I wrote back, dating me is optional, is not required. So, and then delete, because you don't even know these people. Don't get so personal about it. Okay, your answers to canned questions. Some of these sites don't give you room to put an entire profile. They just don't. If you're on one of those, what I would advise you to do is take parts of that wonderful profile you wrote about them, not about you, and put them after each question. So for example, there are swipe sites. The ones that are more relationship oriented will have you answer some canned questions, but they let you have a certain amount of space to answer it. If you've already got your profile written, then what you can do is you can drop in whatever part of it is important to you that will act like a blade that cuts wrong people away and brings people closer who are your people. And you can fit it to that amount of space. So for example, this year, my goal is to meet the love of my life who loves hiking and takes a walk almost every day and would be nice to my dog and my cat, for example. Or one of the things that makes me really happy is when my partner has a secure attachment style, is emotionally open and available, and wants to find the love of his life or whatever. Just whatever they ask. It's in politics, this is called the pivot. You ever notice when you're watching, if you ever watch political debates, a question is asked, and then the person who is asked the question doesn't answer that question. They answer the question they wanted to answer. That's what I want you to do. Answer the question that you wanted to answer. Okay. On the back end, when you're on a swipe app and you've got this wonder, you may be thinking, how is this profile really going to help? Because the fact is, I'm only going to be on swiping apps because I'm 22 years old and that's where the action is. All right, I get it. Have the ad anyway. And then again, like I said earlier, back channel. Once you match with somebody, say, I wrote an ad about my right person. I'd love to send it to you and ask you if you think we're a match based on what I've written. What do you think? And then most of them will disappear. And the ones who say, yeah, I'd love to see it, you send it to them. Okay, so I don't know why I said your gender on there. That's a mystery to me. Okay, let's moving right along. That happens. Okay, and go. Finally, your search. First of all, treat dating like a part-time job. A lot of people who burn out, they're like all in, it's all they do. And then they're completely burned out because they didn't meet the right person in the first week or two, and now they're depressed. I do want you to make effort. It is a job. I mean, think about the things that people say to daters and now put them in an actual job content. You shouldn't be looking. The right job will come when you least expect it. That's never happening. The right job is not coming when you least expect it. The right job is coming because you put in effort. And yet, when I was single, before I met Carrie, there were actually people who know what I do for a living who told me I shouldn't be looking because it would scare people away. That's not a thing. That's bad advice. So it is a job. One of the big pitfalls in dating is people who expect it to be fun. dating can be fun, but if you do it my way, it's really a job where you look like you're having fun, but you probably aren't right at first. I've noticed dating seeming to mostly go one of two ways. Way number one, Vulcan mind meld dating, or what I call the mini marriage, where you see each other, you're attracted, you instantly glom onto each other, you form a sexual relationship, an emotional attachment, and then all of a sudden things are a train wreck. Usually you get like 30, 60, 90 good days, and then it's work, 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 ever after. I like to reverse it. I like to do the work up front and have fun, 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 fun forever afterward. But it is a job, even though you're not telling the other person it's a job. It is, but it's only part-time. So I would advise that, you decide, okay, this is the time of day, X number of days a week that I'm going to be on app or online. That's it. I'm not going to be there any other time. And I'm going to have a process that I use. I'm going to use that process for that amount of time. Then I'm going back to my regularly scheduled life. It was pandemic. I didn't have much of a regularly scheduled life, but I still did it this way because I didn't want to burn out, and I don't want you to either. Okay, scan everybody else's profile per your list. You've got that list. Remember, I told you it's an absolute requirement. It really is. Look and see if you said you want someone kind, which I hope you did say that. That's kind and respectful. If you can find and be someone kind and respectful, your love life is likely to go well. And if you can't, it is guaranteed not to. So, define what those things are, how you would know that those things were there, and notice how people express themselves. Are they kind? Do they have a big chip on their shoulder? There has never been a perfume called chip on your shoulder. Never is going to be. So, look at, okay, if I said this, because I've been married to 2 people with substance abuse problems. I've only even drunk alcohol a handful of times in my life. How did this happen? Well, I understand how it happened now. One of the ways it happened is I'm completely ignorant about what normal drinking looks like because nobody that I was ever around growing up drank. Not for a religious reason. I don't even know what the reason was. We just didn't. It wasn't prohibited. Just didn't do it. So I realized, you know what, Duana, on your list, you need to say drinks 5 or fewer drinks a year. Now, when I was looking at profiles, I had to look at, okay, what do they say to the answer about drugs and alcohol? Scan other people's profiles. Is it said, if they say, is it 5, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, that's not my person. Okay. If somebody has a straight up and down deal breaker, don't make contact. If they already contacted you, then we'll talk about how to say yes and no in a moment. Okay. Making contact. If you are seeking men, men are 11 times more likely than women to reach out and initiate contact. If you're female, you probably just don't have to do it. If, on the other hand, you're a man looking for a man, yeah, make contact. If you're a woman who just wants to, that's fine, but don't inundate this person with questions, because how do men know that they want you? Because they're doing the work. It's pure and simple. It's like cognitive dissonance with a gender detail added. I did the work, therefore you must be worth it. And men value status, and part of the way they know you have status is you're not chasing them, they're chasing you. So if you make contact, just, hi, I saw your profile, I really liked it. And hoping you take a look at mine if you want to, and let me know what you think. Again, your profile is already going to do all this hard work. Or if you're on a swiping app, you swipe right and you say, I hope you look at my photos and decide if you like them. I've also written a profile about the person I'm looking for, available if you want. But not chasing them, just letting them know I exist, this is available. Okay. Thou shalt ask the hard questions now. I think that's only there are only 2 commandments, not 10 on this presentation. So thou shalt ask the hard questions, Dale. What I mean is, right from the very beginning, you're asking the hard questions. You're even asking them before you're asking anything. You're scanning other people's profiles and you're figuring out, okay, do they have a straight up and down deal breaker? For example, politics is a major deal breaker for most people right now. They expect and need someone who sees the world the same way they do. Research has shown, since there's research been done on it in the very early 1980s, research has shown that people don't really stay with people who don't share similar values. It's very necessary to see life through the same lens. So find out that out from the beginning. I'm very politically liberal. If somebody said they were very politically conservative, we didn't match. If they reached out to me and they were very politically conservative, I sent them a very polite note declining. But other times I didn't know, somebody would say, for drinking, Match has an option that says sometimes, depends on the day, or they had an answer that was never. Well, I'm interested in both those answers because why never? Why? And what does sometimes depends on the day mean? Does it mean actually I meant it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but I didn't want to say that because then you wouldn't you wouldn't talk to me. What did they mean by that? So ask the hard questions now. I remember one guy wrote to me, I really liked him as a person. Seemed really nice, upbeat, funny, but he didn't have anything about religion or politics on his answer. And I wrote and I said, hey, Luca, I noticed that you don't have anything about religion or politics on your profile. I really like everything else that I'm seeing. I'm just wondering if you could tell me a little more about that. Notice I'm not like grilling him, I'm being friendly, but I am asking the hard questions. In other words, you don't have to ask it in a hard way, just ask the hard questions. So I asked him, and he came back with, my mom told me never to discuss politics or religion with anyone. And I wrote back and said, I understand that people feel a lot of different ways about this. And I'm sure that you're going to find the right person for you. And I want to wish you well in your search. And he said, wait, that's it? And I said, well, yeah, I don't expect you to share all my same values in order to be a good person, but these are very important things to me. So I would need to know about them. And we didn't talk, and that was fine. I wasn't mean to him. Don't be cruel to people. Look, it's not their fault that they're not your partner, just like it's not your fault that you're not their partner. Don't damage someone who then feels fear and bitterness about digital dating. There's no need for that. People cannot be a match with you and still be perfectly valid human beings. And if they don't treat you as a perfectly valid human being, I would like you to have that talk with yourself. I wasn't a match. That wasn't a cause for rudeness. And by the way, thank you for telling me you're not my person, because that wasn't kind or respectful. But don't say that to them. Just move on. Okay. If somebody just sent you a thumbs up or a like, if you are male and somebody sent you a thumbs up or a like, especially if you're looking for women, women aren't all that likely to do that unless they mean it. They're not just like, I'm gonna swipe right on hundreds of guys and see if I can have sex with any one of them tonight. All over the world, the number one thing a woman can do to have sex with a man she just met is to say she would like to. There's no place in the world that works for men, and it works every place in the world for women. So if a woman has sent you a like and you're a guy who's heterosexual, I would advise go look at her profile if she seems to have what you want. In addition, again, I'm assuming you're looking for a real relationship. If you're not, just, go crazy with your wild self. You'll definitely find what you're looking for. But it's harder to find a long-term partner. So if someone likes you and you like how she looks, go and look at her profile. And if it looks like you're a match, reach out to her. So how do you do that? Okay, if you're the one reaching out, here's a basic formula. Hi, use their name. Do not just say, hey, how's it going? What's your weekend look like? That is a great formula for being ignored. I know why men do spray and pray, which is what that's called. Having a message that you could send to everyone, spray and pray, just hope that someone answers. They do it because women have they've written real meaningful notes that women have ignored or actually been rude to. or, some version of as if. Do not damage people just because you don't like them. You need someone kind of respectful. You also have to be someone kind of respectful. Practice it starting right now if you haven't been already, because data couldn't be clearer. Those are absolute bottom line requirements for having a happy life with someone. And the kind, respectful people out there will not tolerate unkindness and disrespect. They won't tolerate it. So when you reach out, be kind and respectful, and reach out in a meaningful way. Hi, hi, Jane. I noticed that I noticed your photos. You have a really captivating smile, and obviously, I think you're prettier. I wouldn't be reaching out, but I also noticed that you're really into playing soccer and dog walking for the Austin Animal Center. And I've actually walked dogs at the Austin Animal Center, and I am surprised I've never seen you there, but I would certainly like to. I'd like to get to know more about you. So if you'd like to take a look at my profile, I actually wrote it about the woman I'm looking for. I'd love to hear back from you. Now, anyone can reach out that way. But what I'm saying is, women aren't very, if you're a heterosexual guy, women aren't very likely to reach out to you first. And they're likely to ignore the what's up kind of message. So send something personal. You can have a template that you then fill in with details, but that's the way to do it. If someone approached you first, how do you say yes, no, or maybe? If the person approached you and they said, and they're just a straight up and down, heck yeah. Like my husband, I mean, he wrote to me, he answered every part of my ad, and he stayed in character while doing it. And it was just a straight up and down match. He ended it with, I have a feeling this is the role of a lifetime, the part I was born to play. I hope I hear from you soon. And I was like, yes, you will hear from me right this minute. And my ad did the job. He said he read that ad, and it was like looking in the mirror. I was describing him in terms of his character and what he was like and what he liked. And so he actually had been on a hike at that moment, which I like doing every day. He actually ran home to answer, because he wasn't going to do this on the phone. He's going to sit down and type a real response. So a good profile, it should do that. You should be able to tell who's serious, because the serious person should not look at a profile like this one and be like, sup. They're not going to do that. Somebody who does that has just told you, I'm not it. You can move along. Let's assume, though, you get a real answer and it's just straight up and down yes. In that case, you say, wow, I really like your response. And I went and looked at your profile, and it looks like we match in a lot of ways. Yes, I would love to talk on the phone. I know most people do a text first, but I find that I don't really get to know people very well that way. So here's my number and here's my real name. I would appreciate your number and your real name ahead of the call, so that I can put this in to my phone, so that you will be sent actually to me, not to the outer darkness of voicemail from my mobile carrier that screens heavily. And looking forward to hearing from you soon. That's heck yeah. Yes, give your real name. I did, and I've got 9 books out there about relationships. I mean, the first thing, and my first name's Duana. Like, if you type Duana, you find me very, very quickly. If that's all you had, you'd find me. So people say, oh, I'm too embarrassed. What if they know what I do for a living? I was embarrassed. Look what I do for a living. And people might be intimidated. And you know what? They may as well be intimidated right away. Say who you really are. Everybody Googles. Go ahead and Google. So if it's a hard no is like this. Hey, Luca, thanks so much for reaching out. I appreciate that you sent a real message and not something canned. That feels really good. I went to your profile and I saw that politically we're just too different. Which doesn't mean I can't respect your views, but I need someone who's on the same page. I know you're going to find the right person for you, and I am wishing you all the best. Or if you don't want to get that detailed, you can say, hi, Luca, thanks so much, what I just said. And then I looked at your profile. I don't find that we're a close enough match, but you seem like a really great guy. And I just know you're going to find the right person for you. Wishing you all the best. And then you're done. And if somebody comes back and gets belligerent with you, I want you to say inwardly, thank you, universe, for showing me that this person absolutely wasn't it. And then hit block or delete, or both. Don't let the ick stay with you. View it as a gift. Oh, that's confirmation. I now see that I was absolutely right. Okay. What about maybe? Sometimes it's maybe, sometimes you don't know. You have to say, um, hey there, Luca. Thanks so much for reaching out. I really appreciate that you took the time to go through my ad and answer it in detail. That's just so wonderful. I really liked X and Y about your profile. I noticed that, I'll use politics as an example. I noticed that you're politically moderate. I'm politically liberal. Probably if there was a checklist of all the things, and I'm sure there is one of what liberals think, I actually answer everyone just like the checklist says. What's an answer? What's something that I might think that you might not agree with? Don't fall into the trap of looking only for similarity, falling in love with the wrong person, and breaking up later over something you could have found out before you even talked on the phone. Ask now. Similar thing, religion. Um, hey there, Jane. I noticed that I went to your profile. I really like everything I'm seeing there. Obviously, you're very pretty, but I also liked X, Y, and Z. I noticed that you said that you are Catholic, and I was raised Baptist, but I don't go to church anymore. I'm wondering, there's people who kind of are culturally Catholic and people who are very religiously Catholic. How would you describe your religious participation or what you want from your partner around that? I know that we haven't even talked yet, but I just find that it makes a lot more sense to find out up front whether somebody is a match. Like somebody who really is looking for a match is going to appreciate that. And somebody who's belligerent, defensive, not really looking for a match is not going to appreciate it. And you've won both directions. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay. Back in the bad old days, people had pen pals. This is before the interwebs. And pen pals were people that somehow you had their address and you wrote to them and they wrote to you. A lot of times during wars, the military would have women who were matched with men who were who were fighting a war, and they would write back and forth so that the soldier had something to look forward to. They usually were opposite sex, and the idea was maybe this could develop somewhere sometime, but usually it didn't. Let's move this to the phone. I want to give you a rule of thumb, and we're actually going to finish this today. Isn't that exciting? We're not going to go over time at all. So whoever reaches out first, that starts what I call the volley. It's like a tennis game. Serve, return, serve, return, serve, return. If nobody's asked for the phone call by that third serve return, the next person needs to ask for the phone call right then. And I've already given you a rubric for how to do that, which is, but here it is again. I'm really enjoying getting to know you this way, but at this point, it seems like we have enough in common. I'd like to move this to a phone call, if you would. I don't like to do texting. I find it's not a good way to really get to know people, but I'd love to have a phone call, or if you're up for it, a video chat. Only say that if you're really up for it. I would never do FaceTime. I think it makes people look horrible. And the best looking person in the world can look terrible on FaceTime. So, I'd like to have a phone call. If you're ready to get all 1990s with that, then here's my real name and my number so that we can Google away like people do. And so that, I'd appreciate the same from you. So I can Google, and so I can put you in my phone so that your call actually comes through instead of being sent to the outer reaches of voicemail. Or if you're there is a gender difference here. Women, by and large, heterosexual women still want the guy to be the person to initiate. So you can say, if you're the guy, I'd like to call you, but if you're more comfortable, you could call me. I do advise you to go ahead and give your real number, your real name. That's, the universe invented block for a reason. it's not likely that somebody's actually going to stalk you on the basis of one call. It really isn't. And if they did, that's why we have various social structures in place for that. But it's really unlikely. You can just report them to Match or whoever it is and get them banned from the site. There are things you can do. I have in all these years never had this go sideways for a client. Okay, what texting is for? Texting is for booty calls. It's for saying, I'm stopping by the grocery store. What would you like? And once you're in a relationship, it's for sending a quick flirtation, but it's not for getting to know people. Texting puts people on an electronic leash. There's research on how long people expect to have to wait between when they text you and when you respond. And with texting, it's a matter of moments to minutes. That's not good practice for you when you're just getting to know someone because you don't even know them yet. Like they should not have that claim on your energy. And that does appeal to stalkers, by the way. Phone calls get rid of players because where a player can send the same message to dozens of people, and they do. Good morning, beautiful can be sent to any number of people. Also, players can, while sitting next to their partner or their spouse, send you a text, but they can't have the phone call in front of their partner, and they can't have the phone call with 15 other people that day. Nobody has the time. So phone calls just do a great job of just goodbye to all the people who weren't serious or who don't feel confident enough to actually express themselves on their feet. Look, if you're watching this, you're an intelligent person and you need somebody who can express themselves in a conversation because that's how people have relationships. You can only have sex for so long, even at the beginning of the relationship. You're going to have to talk to people. So this is a way to make sure that you can talk to people. Okay, confirming. If you set the date, confirm it the day ahead. If you said, hey, I'd like to see I'd like to do something on Saturday. Does that work for you? And the other person says, yeah, that's great. Don't leave it hanging like that. That's rude. You've just effectively, through your behavior, asked someone to set aside all of Saturday for someone they've never met. If you ask this person, would Saturday work for you? Then say, well, I was thinking, and name a time and a place. Does that work for you? And then come to a firm decision of when and where, right then, or at the very latest, the day after. Do not ask somebody to see you the same day. Total player move. If you're looking for the love of your life, show respect. Kindness and respect are requirements. Show respect by not assuming this person has no life or that they're going to ditch all their plans for you. Say, I really want to meet you. And but I also want to respect your time. How about name a day at least 48 hours away from now? Name a time and a place. Work it out with them. Confirm the day before. These are old-fashioned rules. They're old-fashioned rules for the reason that it used to be a complete deal killer if you weren't respectful. Unfortunately, too many people overlook respect as an absolute requirement now, and then they wind up in relationships where they're not respected. So if somebody doesn't confirm, don't go on the date. I'm actually not going to cover meetings safely in person because there's all kinds of ways you can look that on the interwebs, and I hope you have, and it deserves its very own thing. But I'm going to say, don't show up to a date where the other person didn't confirm. Why don't you show up to a date where the other person didn't confirm? Because usually they're not going to show. And if they do, they're not going to be serious about it. And I've always told people this, and then I was dating and I got a chance to try it out. And there was somebody who did all the right things on the phone call and then didn't confirm. I heard crickets for 7 days. They asked me out 7 days ahead and then didn't confirm the night before. And I thought, what's going on here is someone who thinks it's her turn and it's being basically belligerent and refusing to do the thing I said in my ad. He enjoys calling and asking a girl on a date. He plans the date. I made it clear, courtship is the thing you're doing, and I'm responding enthusiastically and thinking you're awesome. That's what I'm doing. Because research, good men who want a wife, that's good enough for them. They love that. So he didn't do it. So I did show up just so I would have this story to tell you in brief. And here's the story. I showed up and he looked disappointed. He had shown up with a big chip on his shoulder, apparently thinking that I wasn't going to show up and having a story to tell about how he had been done wrong. And it turned out during the date, he did tell me, it was a hiking date because COVID, he did tell me, oh, I thought you were going to call me. And I said, oh, I see why you think that. Can you tell me more? And he said, well, I like women to basically do half the work. And I said, yeah, I was pretty clear in my ad. I'm not ever doing that. So you and I clearly won't be seeing each other again. But, that's your standard and you should hold out for it. I will say, Buddy was 62 and had never gotten married yet. So, and told me that had never worked out for him. So maybe, take a note. But anyway, I wasn't on the clock then. I didn't do my job. I was on a date with him and I made sure that date ended extremely quickly. I'd never hiked so fast in my life, and then we were done. So, and I hope he's found the one for him. But it doesn't work well. If they don't confirm, there's a reason. There's a reason. If you asked, you confirm. Okay, let's go to the final slide, which tells you how to get in touch with me. I answer all my emails. You can email me at duana@lovesciencemedia.com. You can also find just tons of information at lovesciencemedia.com. And you can see where all my books are, and you can email me, and you can see lots of dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of podcasts and all that. So thank you very much for your attention today. I really appreciate it. And I hope you got something valuable from this.
Duana, thank you so much. I'm really thinking this needs to be required viewing before anyone starts. If they're thinking about using these platforms, this is not just for safety, but there's a lot of safety stuff in there for sure. And just increasing your odds of success. There really is a science to this, as we have gathered data, people have gathered data, and we know more. You've clearly made this presentation with a lot of thought. So I think you covered, I didn't see any questions that came up in the chat. So I think you had anticipated all the questions, and you've shared with everyone a way to connect with you. And I want to encourage people to go to our website, to the links that we provided earlier, and find the links to Duana's and other folks' previous talks on relationships, healthy relationships, and join us. And join us again, please. Thank you so much for everybody's time today.